Hey everybody, this is Charlie subbing in for TheTopher to bring you a first look at the entirely new 2025 Hyundai Ioniq 9. This is an all-electric 3-row crossover coming from Hyundai, building up their Ioniq lineup, which currently consists of the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6. This one being the 9 is the largest one, and they're expecting to not have too many models larger than this. It sports a 110.3 kilowatt-hour battery pack in all of its models, and all models, whether rear-wheel drive or all-wheel, are expected to get over 300 miles of EPA mixed driving range. Today we're going to look around this very fun and slightly green interior. We're going to hop out and take an exterior look at the car as well, and see what Hyundai has shaken for us here with their largest electric crossover. Now, Hyundai being a corporate cousin with Kia, this one is somewhat similar to the Kia EV9. However, it is styled quite a bit different and packaged quite a bit different as well. Unfortunately, we don't have any sort of pricing right now, but we do know that there's going to be rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive long-range models, and then an all-wheel drive performance model, which makes over 400 horsepower. So that one should have a good amount of get up and go. Coming into the back here on this SEL model, you're seeing what I have been consistently seeing as a little bit of Volvo wagon, both proportions and with these vertical taillights here. I really like what I'm seeing. It's got a lot of cool design elements from the way this lower haunch kind of sticks out. And then you have what the Hyundai designer called eyebrows here over the wheels. And this was actually a little interesting tidbit that he told us. They wanted to have this sort of look of a rugged, more squared off wheel arch, but that wasn't good for aerodynamics. So they added this black element here on the SEL models to sort of make it look rugged from further away, but still be aerodynamic and not create turbulence there in the wheel well. So that's pretty interesting. Then you've got some character lines going on in here. It really is a fairly unique looking vehicle. And even in this SEL trim, I quite like it. We also got to briefly see a calligraphy model. I'll show you some B-roll of that one. That one having some larger wheels, a little bit more dramatic styling, and painted wheel arches there, giving it a little bit more of a street presence, if you will. Coming into the back, we see Ioniq 9 lettering. Interesting that there seems to be the same amount of spacing between Ioniq and 9. But kind of a fun font there. Pop this open. Very squared window as well. It's not a particularly tall vehicle. They were able to do a lot with lengthening the wheelbase and kind of going with more of a width and length over height. I'm sure that helps with aerodynamics. Should be getting over 3 miles per kilowatt hour with this car in most driving situations. Decent amount of room. They say they've got more cargo room than the Rivian R1S, both with third row seats up and down. It is a little bit of a high load surface, I will say. Folding these down. Everything pretty flat there then. Okay. And then we can fold the second row seats. Oh, okay. In this SEL model, those are not powered. So in order to get them back up, I'm going to have to go and manually pull them up. But I do see a wall outlet back here giving us 15 amps at 125 max volts. That's pretty good. You can also do the V to L where you actually plug in an adapter into the charge port. Right there, yep. And then you should be able to get a higher amperage and a higher wattage right there out of your charger if you wanted to power things at a tailgate, for example. Now, interestingly enough, I was told this is supposed to come with the NACS, the Tesla charger port, but I'm seeing an SAE port here. So maybe this is sort of a pre-production situation and it's going to come with a different charging port. But yeah, you're going to have the charger plug. You have access to all the Tesla Superchargers. Well, I shouldn't say all. You have access to over 17,000 Tesla Superchargers around the United States. I believe it's only V3 and V4 Superchargers that are compatible with the NACS standard. And I don't know how charging rates are necessarily going to work with those, because if I know correctly, the V3 Superchargers are 400 volt, and these Hyundai vehicles can support up to 800 volts. I'm not 100% sure where that's going to lie, but should still get plenty of charging speed. I know at maximum voltage and maximum wattage, you can charge from 10 to 80% in, I think it was 23 minutes, it's all fairly ambiguous anyway. There's so much that goes into temperature and vehicle conditioning and battery preconditioning and everything. But it's going to be fairly quick. It's going to be right up there. Hyundai's got some of the best charging speeds on the market for these vehicles. But I was going to say, Hyundai is going to give you an adapter for this car because it is going to come with the Tesla charging port, not this one. And they're going to give you an adapter that will allow you to use this style charge port for some of those existing EA sort of chargers at level 3 speeds. So still in a little bit of the Wild West when it comes to charger compatibility, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I like that very flat, smooth load surface there. You could easily camp in here. Let's see how this is to pull back up. All right. Quite good. Coming into the back, you see door handles that come into the vehicle. I wonder how these are going to work with cold weather. The TheTopher being located in Michigan in the winter. I mean, I assume they have enough power to pop out and break ice, but sure would be difficult to get into your vehicle if those were frozen. Some Ioniq 9 lettering there. Okay, doors open pretty wide, and you start to see how expansive the rear is in this car. I mean, they really did a good job with the cargo area in general in terms of all the space. If you had rear-facing car seats in here, I mean, that's not going to encroach on the driver's seat space at all. And then one-click button press. You're seeing the 7-row configuration here with this bench seat, but in the calligraphy models, you're getting captain's chairs in the second row, giving you 6 seats. And this is a little bit tighter, I will say. Seems to be more of a vehicle that has a third row that maybe isn't going to be used all that often, a little bit more just for kids, because this seat is not all the way reclined. Let's see if I can reach. Oh, yeah, okay. Knees are pinned up. Can I slide this back? I mean, this is not great for adults. Okay, children only in the third row. They sure make that easy. And then, oh gosh, yeah, just acres of space here. I'm 5'10", I've got plenty of knee room, tons of headroom. No sunroof, interestingly, in this SEL model. Flip down center armrest, hard cup holders. I've got 3-stage heated seats back here in this SEL model, as well as rear zone climate control. This is interesting. We've got USB-C ports, but they support up to 100 watts of charging speed. So you could have a straight up MacBook right here getting fully powered, just about fully powered. If you were really maxing it out, you could charge it up very, very quickly still here with these 100-watt chargers in the back. That's impressive. Big sunshades. Like to see that. The windows go all the way down? Yes, they do. Okay. Double cup holder action, as well as the center cup holders, a little bit more door storage, some seat back pocket. And then this is kind of fun. In the center console area, you can reach in from the back, or you can pop this open, and then take this out. And then that goes through all the way to the bottom as well. So there's a little bit of a pass-through situation going on. It's kind of fun. You can tell the designers had some fun and some thought that went into designing this center area. Because this is all electric, they didn't need to do much with the front area under the hood. So they were able to move the entire interior of the car up and really maximize cargo area here. Well, cargo and people area. They have a dedicated seat massage button. Interesting that you're getting massaging seats even in an SEL. Yeah, I'm nervous about what the price is going to be for this car. That's the only thing holding me back on EV9 is I quite like it, but man, you get expensive for some of those trims. Bringing it to life, we have stop-start button on the stock-mounted shifter. I like that. That frees up the space even more. Power tilt and telescope steering wheel. In the front, we see other way you can open up that center console. Wireless device charging with some grip right there. I like to have that. Also going to help keep your device a little bit cooler. Still getting this Hyundai key, though, that I think they need to change. This vehicle that we're sitting in is probably about a $70,000 car, and this key is pretty simple and cheap for $70,000. I will say that. Some drive mode selection. What do we got? Eco, normal, sport, and then if we press it down, we get terrain modes. Auto, snow, mud, and sand. That's a pretty clever way to do that. All right. 360-degree camera. That is optional, I believe. Parking sensors. Nice center stack that still features a good amount of physical controls. Okay, calm down. Hyundai has realized that people want physical controls for volume. They want it for a lot of the functionality that they're going to do regularly. And even though these are touch controls with the climate control, they're still physical. We have physical knobs for adjusting heat. Like to have that. Real physical vents. We're starting to see this single glass design for infotainment and gauge clusters across a lot of Hyundai's lineup. No big change here. I am curious though, do we get a new map? No, still looking like their same mapping system. That is one of my complaints when I took a road trip with an Ioniq 6, is that their built-in EV mapping is not very good. I think it was about 900 miles or so in that car, maybe about 700 miles, and I tried to have it map me with chargers along the way, and it's rudimentary compared to some of the other offerings. Nice physical controls on the steering wheel, like having a roller for volume. It feels good. See a Bose sound system. Hyundai's been stepping up their Bose sound system game recently. The Hyundai Santa Fe and the Sonata have both sounded better than a lot of their outgoing models. So hopefully this one continues that trend. Oh, a little bit of storage underneath there. That's actually nice. It's gripped, so you could put a device or a book in there right above the glove box. Nice use of materials. Not seeing piano blacks. I'm seeing a good amount of places to put things. Things look nice. I like this green color. So far, a lot to like about this new Ioniq 9. Now, there's still a lot we're going to need to learn about when it comes to kind of how it drives and what the pricing is going to be. Obviously, that's going to be a big factor, but I have to think that Hyundai is going to try to be somewhat competitive, and we do have a frunk. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I wasn't expecting to see that usable of a frunk in here. Very nice. So a lot to look forward to here with the Ioniq 9. Keep an eye on the channel. We'll get Chris into one here at some point and drive it as soon as he's able to. But definitely liking the proportions, liking the feature set, liking the materials, and looking forward to getting behind the wheel. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.